I am Daniel Blaufuks. I am a Portuguese-German photographer. I come from Jewish refugees families in Lisbon, and I've been working as a photographer for quite a while. I've been working on this Attempting Exhaustion series, which basically is a continuous series of photographs from my window, and this, not only the title, is based on Georges Perec, where he wrote une tentative d'épuisement d'un lieu parisien, where he sat in a cafe for 3 days in Paris, writing down everything he could see from his coffee table. So it is a register, an observation of ordinary life. This work, Attempting Exhaustion, started before Attempting Exhaustion in a period in 2009, I think, where I had issues in my life, troubles, and I spent a long time with almost not leaving my house. So I started using this window as a kind of a fake window to the world, because it's a window, but at the same time the glass is not transparent. And it started from there, and photographing some objects on the table. And these are included in a book based on the diaries of Cesare Pavese. But then I started photographing this same space practically every day when I was in Lisbon. And I was also doing my PhD on Georges Perec and W.G. Sebald. So I came across again, I knew the text, but I came across again the book of Georges Perec, Tentative d'épuisement. And I started to think that this space cannot exhaust it. It exhausts me, because the light is always changing, the objects are changing, and life is changing. So it's also about photographing what cannot be photographed, which is the ordinary. More and more we are seeing images from photographers across the world. They go further and further away to show more and more kind of exotic point of views. And here I was retracing the way back to my house. So instead of traveling, I was traveling in my own room, which is very Perecian at the same time as we know. So it kind of evolved from there, and then it became an obsession, a Perecian obsession. I also like to use elements that come from painting, like the water glass or a flower, which have a lot to do with still life in painting, because they truly have a meaning, they represent something, like water represents fluidity and transparency through time, or even the lemons, which is a symbol for jealousy. Also, it's a very nice place to sit down and read, and it's a place of silence because it's in the back of the house. I used also, at some time, I put color shades in the window, because it reminded me of a cathedral or a mosque, a place of, not in the religious terms, but in a place of solace. But in 2018 I started using Polaroids on paper, A4 paper and A3 paper, like the drawings for the actual works, because I started working with different cameras, big format cameras, analog cameras, digital cameras, small cameras, instant cameras, toy cameras, slide, film, digital file. By doing this, I wanted to show the whole process of photography, and also how not only the room, the window changes, but also it changes according to the technique I'm using. I decided never to use a tripod to make it not a fixed view of the window. So the view changes. I do vertical, I do horizontal, but the camera is always moving. Because the other option would be to put a tripod, leave the tripod there, and it will be always the same picture. But I didn't want that, because life is not like that. You know, life is moving every day, every minute, every second. In 2018, from this series of the windows, I started to making a diary, where the rule was, and still is, because it's an ongoing diary that I do every day, is and was that when I'm in Lisbon, I have the window, And if I'm away, I photograph other things for the diary. But I often discover other windows. So I use the other windows also as a motif and as a mirror. The thing with the diary is that I can include text. I can also do collage, which is something I never did before. It gives me a freedom that photography doesn't have. I still call it a non-diary, because you cannot really read my life from it. You cannot find out if I had a good dinner or if I met someone special on that day. Maybe you can sense when I'm happier, when I'm sadder, when I'm more melancholic. You can sense that, because also the images translate that. But I was also interested in showing that although my window is not transparent, it's impossible to keep the world out, which is bad in a way, meaning I cannot keep the noise out. That makes me crazy, the noise of the world. But it's also good because I'm still attached to the world, meaning I read the news, I know what's happening in the world, like we all do. So when I show the window, in a photograph, we can easily forget that now there is a war in Ukraine, or before there were dead people in Gaza, or Aleppo was destroyed a few years ago during the Syrian civil war. So I was interested in bringing that in, meaning that changes me as a person, to know this. I'm in my kitchen through this window. What can I actually do? Because also there raises a lot of questions. Sebald in one interview said, if you're against the government in your kitchen, is the same as being for the government on the main square. Because if you're only saying it in your kitchen, it's not going to help anything. So in a sense, the diary, non-diary, is a translation of that thought of Sebald, which I think is very important, because often we are with our friends and we have lots of opinions about everything, but they're not worth anything because they're just opinions if we don't do something. Photography is silent, and the diary helps me to give it some sound through the writing or through the collage. By using Polaroid, it looks more valuable, it looks more precious, so I hope that when one sees my diary, we think of our days are more precious. Because we are all wasting our life away, either by work or too much fun. The diary runs parallel to the attempting exhaustion, which I'm still doing. It's not the same, but it's like a cousin, a very close cousin to it. When I already did most of the work, I found this photograph of my great-grandparents, which I have not met, obviously, and who were German refugees in Lisbon. In 1938, I think. This picture was exactly not the same window, but a very similar window, because at that time Lisbon was full of these windows. Now they're all disappeared. Mine is the last one in the building. They all changed for PVC. But what was fascinating and surprising and incredible for me is that my great-grandparents are sitting in front of the window at a table. The position is more or less the same. The find of this image showed the more obvious connection with all the work, because this is about memory. This window is going to disappear. Like in Perec, we read the Tentative d'épuisement, which is written in Café de la Mairie in Saint-Sulpice in Paris. We can read it there, and some things have changed, but a lot has not. Like the bus numbers are exactly still the same. We might see a man running like he describes. We might see a bicycle like he describes. The coffee will be more or less the same. The endroit is the same, but a lot of other things. So everything involves. So the window at some point will disappear. And also what will change when they change the window is definitely the light, because nobody uses this kind of glass anymore. So it will be transparent. And I think that's a symbol of our world today. We are afraid of mystery and of secrets. Everything became transparent. But at the same time, nothing in politics is transparent. But we think it is, but the war in Ukraine is not transparent, you know. There are so many layers that it will be impossible to understand all those layers. So anyhow, we did find of this image from my great-grandparents in exile, kind of objectively put the project in world history. You know, because my work is the encounter between personal memory and world memory. It's that corner of the street, which means I have a memory that is personal, but my personal memory is 90% based on Adolf Hitler chasing out the Jews. So that tiny corner, I really think it's very interesting, because world politics affects us all, so world memory affects us all. And the finding of this picture was very significant. It didn't change the work, but it made it so much more worthy for me.